There we are. Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. And Alanna, I must say, I am very excited for this show because I am very excited for this weekend. We have two great series in the National League that will be going on sort of simultaneously. In the East, we've got the Philadelphia Phillies hosting the Atlanta Braves. And in the West, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks hosting the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, Ken, great to be with you as always. We want our viewers and our listeners to participate in this chat as well. So please load up all of your questions for Ken. Have an opportunity to talk to Ken. We'll get them in the chat momentarily and Grillin Ken. But you're right, there's a lot going on this weekend. So let's get to the lead. And Kenny, since it starts today, let's start to the big one in the NL East.
This is the one I'll be covering for Fox on Saturday, and I want to show people the matchups as we get into it here because there are some great matchups here. Now, this set the stage here. It's the Phillies 5 games ahead of the Braves in the National League East, which is a miracle to me that the Braves are this close. They are 8-2 since Austin Riley fractured his right hand. You see the standings right there. And the Braves, I don't believe they're going to win the division. But my goodness, Alanna, they're playing with 3 released players often in their lineup. I'm talking about Urshela, Laureano, and Merrifield. 3 guys who were released this season by other teams. Because of their injuries, they picked them up, and now they're within 5 games. They have a 4-game lead over the next closest wildcard pursuer, the Mets, so they're fairly comfortable as far as their playoff position. The question now is if they can somehow run down the Phillies. Now, again, let's take a look at the matchups because there's some really good ones this weekend. We've got, starting off tonight, Charlie Morton versus Christopher Sanchez. Then tomorrow, Reynaldo Lopez versus Ranger Suarez. The Fox game will be Max Fried versus Zach Wheeler. And then Spencer Schwellenbach, one of the great rookies this season, versus Aaron Nola in the finale. Alanna, I don't expect the Braves to, again, make a move here. The Phillies have won 9 of 14, and 2 of the losses were with Taijuan Walker on the mound. But this could get interesting.
I love this, Ken. I love that it's a 4-game set because it really gives you an indication of, who the powerhouse teams are in the NL East. And I love the fact that the Braves are still in the conversation despite being decimated by injury. There's not a team that has been affected more by the injury bug than the Atlanta Braves. And here they are still in the hunt for the postseason, certainly likely going to get in. And again, you just have to get in. You don't necessarily have to win the division. Is there any scenario, barring another injury to this team, that you can see Atlanta not getting? What do the Mets have to do to kind of leapfrog the Atlanta Braves to secure that final wild card spot?
They need to get their bullpen in order. And we saw Diaz blow another one last night. He has had his struggles since returning. Their bullpen early in the season was sort of a strength at times, and now it has become a weakness. And that's the thing that they cannot really fix easily right now. So it's becoming difficult to imagine how they're going to catch the Braves. And Alanna, you made a great point. The point here is to get in. And if the Braves get in, their postseason rotation, likely NL Cy Young winner Chris Sale, Max Fried, a guy who is returning to form, Reynaldo Lopez, who has been an all-star and one of the best pitchers in the game this season, and maybe Schwellenbach in the 4th spot. So they get in, they're a problem, even though their offense is not what it should be. Olsen has had a better week. Jorge Soler is adding something. I don't see them being a team in the NLCS, but you know what? They should not be 5 games out of first place either.
Yeah, stranger things have happened, Ken. Just ask the Arizona Diamondbacks. And remember, this is a team without Ronald Acuna Jr., the National League MVP from last season. This is a team without Austin Riley. This is a team, obviously, without Spencer Strider. I mean, they get Albies back. Ozuna has been good for them, but I never underestimate what Alex Anthopoulos and what Brian Snitker can do as far as the Atlanta Braves are concerned. Another massive matchup in the NL West, so going from the NL East to the NL West. The Los Angeles Dodgers just finishing with the Baltimore Orioles, and they're going to start a big series with those Arizona Diamondbacks, Ken.
They are 4 games. It's a wraparound series. Starts Friday night and then goes through Monday. And this one, too, is going to be really interesting. It's a closer race in the NL West. The Diamondbacks are within 3 games of the Dodgers, as you see right there. The Diamondbacks, since July 23rd, 25-7. They've won 25 of 32, and they've done it with Christian Walker on the IL since July 30th, Gabriel Moreno on the IL since August 6th, and Ketel Marte, who was an MVP candidate, on the IL since August 19th. So they've been without these three guys for various parts of this hot run. Christian Walker has missed most of it. So to see what they have done is really impressive. And Alanna, I love their starting pitching and where it is and where it can go. So let's look at the matchups for this series for this weekend, and it's going to be another really great set of matchups. Clayton Kershaw versus Zach Gallen, former Cy Young winner, maybe a future Cy Young winner. Gavin Stone, arguably the Dodgers' best starter this year, versus Merrill Kelly Saturday night. Jack Flaherty versus Brandon Pfaadt, and then Walker Buehler, who was slightly better last night, still not great, versus Eduardo Rodriguez in the finale.
Yeah, I'm still irritated that Eduardo Rodriguez is pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks and not the Los Angeles Dodgers, but that is for Dodgers territory coming up later this afternoon. Clayton Kershaw looks great. He's been really impressive in his last 3 or 4 starts. I agree with you, Ken. Gavin Stone has been the Dodgers starter that they needed all season long. This is not a guy I would have had on my bingo card, but he is posted every 5th day. He looks great. Of course, Jack Flaherty has given them a boost. And Walker Buehler still isn't quite where he needs to be. And I don't know that Walker Buehler even is the starter in the first 3 games of a postseason if the Los Angeles Dodgers obviously get to that point. It's going to be interesting to see, Kenny, and I've said this the entire season, I still do not feel that the Los Angeles Dodgers have enough starting pitching.
I am with you on this, and I know they're confident. Yamamoto's coming back. Glasnow's coming back. I hear them, but I'll believe it when I see it that these guys are healthy and effective and pitching the way the Dodgers want them to. It's certainly possible. They're trending that way. The Dodgers have set everything up for that to happen. Okay. But this weekend, keep in mind, they're facing a team that leads the major leagues in scoring. This is the highest scoring team in the majors, the Arizona Diamondbacks. That's a trivia question right now you could probably win some money on. And not only do they lead the majors in runs scored, they're leading by a significant margin. It's 0.3 of a run per game, and that's a lot when you talk about these kinds of things. So the Dodgers pitching here will be challenged. Kershaw will be challenged. That's a team that has hit him in the past. Buehler, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting weekend and an interesting stretch run, and then we get to October. The Dodgers have set everything up for October, and now we'll see where they are.
But Ken, they always set everything up for October, and they've been bounced in the first round the last couple of years. And Corbin Carroll is starting to be the Corbin Carroll that they need him to be. Eugenio Suarez has been the Diamondbacks. He's put that team on his back over the course of the last month. And this is a guy, Ken, that was batting about 170 at the end of June. So he's been tremendous for them. And by the way, more Phillies talk on not only the Philly show, but also on Foul Territory coming up after our show. All right, so from teams that are really good, probably getting into the postseason, to a team, Ken, that is not even close, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Tell me more about that.
You might have seen yesterday's game in which they blew a 7-run lead in the final 3 innings. They led 10-3 with Paul Skeens on the mound and lost 14-10 to the Cubs. The Pirates now, Alanna, are 7-18 in August. And here's the key with them. They started the season thinking that they were going to contend. And I want to show you something right here. Their record right now versus their record last year and where they are. 2023, 76-86, 469 winning percentage. 2024, 62-71, 466 winning percentage, even lower than it was last year. August has done that to them. They were buyers at the deadline and then they collapsed. They didn't buy a whole lot, but they did. So they entered the season thinking that they were going to be competing not just for a division title perhaps, but at least a postseason berth. And we wrote an article in The Athletic, Stephen J. Nesbitt and I, in February, in which we quoted the owner, Bob Nutting, to that effect. He said that. That's our goal. We believe we can take a meaningful step forward. He was expecting a meaningful step forward. This is not a meaningful step forward. And now you wonder what changes, if any, might happen in the offseason. Is the manager, Derek Shelton, in trouble? Is the general manager, Ben Sherrington, in trouble? Where are they going with this? I hesitate to say they're spinning their wheels because a lot of good things have happened. Paul Skeens and Jared Jones, particularly. At the same time, you got to win some games. And they thought their bullpen was a strength at the start of the season. They had some injuries. It's not a strength right now. Mm-hmm. And the Pirates, again, last in the NL Central, arguably the game's weakest division. Once more, I ask, where are they going?
And you bring up such a good point, and that's something I was going to make, Ken, as well, that the NL Central was a very winnable division this year for all of the teams, and Milwaukee has a stranglehold on the top of the division. I mean, if there was any year, this probably would have been a good time for the Pirates to be able to make that positive step forward, and they just haven't been able to do so.
Nope. And again, you look at the division. The Brewers seem to be good every year. The Cubs, we think they're going to be good every year, and they haven't been for a while now. The Reds, making progress, but sort of spinning their wheels too. And then the Cardinals, they have gone backwards. As you said, Alanna, this is not the AL East, the NL East, the NL West, or even the AL Central. This is a division where you should be able to make up some ground, and they have yet to do that.
Let me ask you a question. I want to circle back on the Arizona Diamondbacks for a second. I apologize for doing this to you, but it reminded me of something. With Jordan Montgomery, what is your take on the fact that they put him in the bullpen? I understand why, but an ERA over 6, Ken, he seems a little bit upset about the way things were handled in the offseason. They were going with the 6-man rotation for some time, but now Monty's in the bullpen. What is your whole take on that situation? How does that get resolved?
It's all about winning games right now. And Jordan Montgomery knows that, and he knows that he has not been a competent starting pitcher for them. So they put him in the bullpen 2 nights ago, I believe, that he gave them 4 1/3. And he can be useful there. And Torey Lovello has not ruled out that Montgomery will be back in the rotation. Now he has that funky player option for next year. Will he opt in? Will he opt out? I don't know right now that you can walk away from 25 plus million if you're Jordan Montgomery for next year, but at the same time, maybe he thinks he can get more on a multi-year, a greater guarantee, if not a greater average annual value. So it is an interesting situation to be sure. Blake Snell straightened out. Jordan Montgomery never did, and right now he's in an uncomfortable position to say the least.
Yeah, if you want to leverage yourself and have a better deal, you better get that ERA well below 6.5, which is about where it is right now. All right, we're going to have a message from our Foul Territory crew, but make sure you get the questions in because Grillin Ken is coming up.
I love a great deal, but I'm not going to run sprints in the outfield just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. With Mint Mobile, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. Purchase and activation is super easy too.
To get started, go to mintmobile.com/territory. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
It is very cool to see all of the new sponsors joining our Foul Territory team. We are grateful for Mint Mobile. Again, time now for Grillin Ken. And this is the first question for you. This comes from Isaac. So Isaac, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation here. Ken, which is the most likely? The Brewers reach the World Series. The Royals reach the World Series. Judge reaches 65 home runs. Shohei reaches the 50-50 mark. The Chicago White Sox reach 125 losses.
I'm going to say Shohei gets 50-50 and the White Sox get 125 losses.
Oh my goodness.
I'm picking 2.
So something really good, something really bad. Why do you feel confident in those 2 things?
Shohei keeps piling up the stolen bases and the home runs. He's at 42 right now, and he's on pace to get beyond 50-50. The White Sox are right on pace for 125. I'm going to get to them in a little bit.
Okay. So thank you, Isaac, for that question. Lots of questions today, so no need to go crazy on this. But here's another question for you. Dr. Anarchy 69, Ken. Is Aaron Judge having the best non-steroid offensive season since integration?
That is a very good question. And I would have to go back and look. And obviously, if you're talking about non-steroid seasons, you're ruling out all of those amazing seasons by Bonds. Off the top of my head, I would say yes. This is a historic season. If you look at his OPS plus, it is so far beyond league average. It's not even funny. It's historic. So I would say off the top of my head, without doing the research, and don't start throwing numbers at me. Yes, this is the best
Okay,
season
before
by a
we move
non-steroid
on,
player.
before we move on to the next one, though, what about the naysayers, Ken, that say he plays in a bandbox? He plays with that short porch and right. Of course, he's going to have a billion home runs. What if Aaron Judge didn't play at Yankee Stadium as his home park?
Easy answer, Alanna. He has more homers on the road this season than at home, 26 to 25.
There you go.
It might be the other way around. It might be 26 at home, 25 on the road, but it's really close.
All right. See, just ask Ken Rosenthal on Grillin Ken. He's going to give you the straight answer. All right. Comic Things wants to know, with the way how slow free agency played out last offseason, do you think this offseason players are more eager to sign early with teams than drawn out into spring training? Good question, Comic Things.
It is a very good question, and certainly the experiences of Snell and Montgomery are instructive, and I am certain free agents will take note of that and obviously try to react differently or play it differently than those two did. Now, those two will tell you, Scott Boras will tell you, their agent, that the market wasn't there for them and it didn't form, and that's why the signings took so long. We can debate this all day, but it does behoove free agents, certain ones in particular, to sign early before the slots are filled, before teams run out of money. Not that they run out of money, but they stop spending money. And I would expect some strategic things to be different, and I would expect Scott Boras to perhaps embark on a different strategy. If you guys remember, 2018-19 offseason, he was coming off an offseason much like this one. And I remember writing something very critical of what he did. The next offseason, he crushed it, and he crushed it at the winter meetings. 3 massive signings at the winter meetings. Early December, it was Garrett Cole, it was Strasburg, and it was Rendon. And he had a zillion other clients, and they all got paid. So maybe he will take a different approach as well.
And how about Strasburg is retired? Rendon, I've played more games in the big leagues than he has, and Garrett Cole's pretty good. Okay, next question for you. This is regarding the White Sox again. Will the White Sox be above 500 before or after the A's throw the first pitch in Vegas?
I'm going to say before, I love these questions. They will be a 500 team before the A's throw the first pitch in Vegas. And I'm banking this answer in part because I'm not fully confident the A's will ever throw a first pitch in Vegas.
I know. I'm with you too. I was looking at the schedule there in Sacramento between the Athletics and the River Cats. That park is going to be incredibly busy. Okay, another question for you. If you could have Jackson Holiday, Jackson Merrill, or Jackson Chourio for their career, who are you taking? The 3 Jacksons.
That's a great question too. These are really good. If you had to pick right now, a player right now for at this moment, you'd pick Merrill. He's having the best year. Long term, I still believe Holiday is going to be a great player. And that's not to say Merrill or Chourio won't be. They're both having great years. They're both strong Rookie of the Year candidates. But Holiday, to me, is still very intriguing. He was the number 1 pick overall in the draft for a reason, and I expect him to fulfill his expectations.
I agree with you. I remember when Holiday was running around at 3 years old in the Rockies clubhouse when I was covering his dad. We are old, Ken. Okay, another question for you on Grillin Ken. These are good today. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. With the Giants putting their players on unconditional waivers, could we see other teams starting to do this in the upcoming weeks? Kind of like how last year's Angels were. Again, Comic Things joining the combo.
Timing is everything here. And it's a good question because today really is the last day for the waiver thing to happen. And why do I say that? Put a player on waivers today, August 29th. He clears or does not clear on August 31st. August 31st is a meaningful date on the calendar because that is the last day a player has to be in an organization, become eligible for the postseason. Now, all you have to do is be in the organization. It could be any player in the organization to be eligible. But if, for instance, pick a name out there you want to see on your team, or you want to perhaps waive and see if he gets claimed, got to do it today, or else he won't be eligible for the postseason. So the coming weeks, I don't expect this to be a factor, but today, tomorrow, and the next day, sure.
Jason Hayward better get picked up by somebody soon. I don't know if that's going to be the Astros. Did they actually do it, Ken? I
Yes.
heard that he was going to the Astros. Okay, perfect.
He's joining them today, and Chas McCormick has been optioned. That was a kind of surprising move.
That was surprising
to me
too.
But that's probably the spot for Hayward.
Yeah, so Hayward obviously will make it in the postseason because the Astros obviously are going to the postseason. Okay, Blueberry's life. Do the Jays sign Vlad Jr. and take a run at Soto in free agency?
I don't think they're signing Vlad Jr. And the reason
Mm.
I say that is because they haven't signed him already. And now he's going to enter the offseason as a 5+ player, 1 year away from free agency. Players in that category generally want to test the market. So that's my expectation there. As for Soto, they might take a run. They were interested in trading for him last offseason, but do we really think the Toronto Blue Jays are going to outbid the Mets or the Yankees? And do we really think even that they want to be in that mix? I know they bid for Ohtani, and they were right there. They had the money and matched the offer. I'm just not sure they're going to go for Soto the same way.
The Yankees letting Soto go would be a massive mistake. If he wants $500 million, give him $500 million. Another question for you, Ken. Graham Farmer wants to know if Shohei Ohtani gets one more stolen base and one more home run, he'll be the only player in the 43-43 club. You're right, because obviously Acuna Jr. last year was on his way, but didn't have the amount of home runs that Ohtani does. Does this alone secure his MVP title?
Graham, I wrote about this yesterday, and basically I said if he makes history 45-45, 50-50, he's probably a lock. Now, granted, it's easier to steal bases than it's ever been in the game thanks to the rule changes that were implemented last season. But do we see anybody else doing it?
Exactly.
No, we don't see anybody else doing it. So, to me, he is the clear favorite here. Now, we've seen other players have their moments this season. Mookie, before he got hurt, was probably the runaway choice. And then Ketel Marte came on, he got hurt. Now you're hearing talk about Francisco Lindor having a terrific season. If he can somehow drag the Mets into the playoffs, okay, maybe he becomes a legitimate threat. Ohtani obviously is a DH. No primary DH has ever won this award. No primary DH has ever stolen 50 bases either. So to me, he's the clear favorite. I know there are people who say he's half a player, right, this year anyway, and you can't make him MVP. But the way I framed that article yesterday, if he puts himself out there so much offensively, then it becomes no race. And don't forget Marcell Ozuna, too, in this conversation. Marcell Ozuna has had a remarkable year as a DH for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that too, because when I looked at this and I see it from both sides, of course, it's what we're supposed to do. You talk about the Mets camp, Francisco Lindor saying, okay, Ohtani doesn't play in the field. Okay, that's fair. But then you also look at the fact that he's about to hit the 50-50 club and he's coming back from a surgery that has him rehabbing and throwing off a mound. And he's still, at this point, and he's still able to do what he does. So what is your take on the fact that, yeah, he's a DH, but he's doing some pretty extraordinary things, Ken?
I don't know that I factor in the fact that he's rehabbing. This is a performance award, and certainly it's part of the narrative that he is doing that, and it's remarkable. He does amazing things. It's interesting. In the column, I presented some positive narratives for Ohtani and some negatives. The positive one is just what we said. This guy's amazing. He's incredible. No one can do what he does. The negative narratives are, hey, he's a DH, which we just mentioned. And the other thing is, and I do wonder if this becomes an issue if Lindor or even Marte comes back and these guys get close. People don't like to vote for the same guys every year.
Yeah.
This would be Ohtani's third MVP in 4 years, and I wonder if voters would look for an alternative. I don't believe that would happen. Today's voters are pretty statistically oriented, and they don't get swayed as much by narrative as perhaps we did in the past. But it's an interesting question.
But here's the thing, too. Ohtani is an MVP on a team that has the best record in baseball that's in the postseason. Francisco Lindor and the Mets right now, despite the fact he's having a great year and despite the fact he does play a very hard defensive position, he's on a team that's not in the postseason. Do you put any weight on that?
I prefer my MVPs to come from a postseason team, but I don't ever say that has to happen. Ohtani won too, not being on a postseason team, obviously. Sure. If a guy performs at a certain level, you can't hold his teammates against him. And I think that's where we are with this. Now, the thing that's intriguing to me about Ohtani's candidacy beyond all what we just said is that after Mookie got hurt, he moved into the leadoff spot. Mm-hmm. And that's when he started running more. And I went back and looked at some of his stolen bases, the ones in August, because I was curious. Is this guy padding? Is he stealing third with a 10-run lead, pulling that kind of stuff? And really, they've played so many close games. I didn't see anything egregious. Everything was within the context of the score and appropriate for that particular game. So what he's doing is amazing. And I see him right now as a very clear front runner.
Last thing on this, and I don't know that there's been many times when an MVP has ever been criticized or gotten in because of his defense. I mean, isn't the MVP award a very offensive award to begin with? So the fact that Shohei doesn't play in the field shouldn't really factor in, because MVPs don't usually get in based on defense.
It generally is an offensive award, but in this era of advanced statistical analysis, we've become more cognizant of a player's all-around talent. That's what WAR is, wins above replacement. It's an all-encompassing metric for offense, defense, and base running. It's an estimate. It's not perfect by any stretch, but that's where we are. I do believe defense is valued more than it was. So a good defender gets points for that in the minds of voters. The criteria also says strength of offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not the only thing the criteria say. There's also a line in there that says the MVP is basically whatever you want it to be. There's no clear-cut definition of what most valuable means. And it says DHs and pitchers are eligible. So you can parse the language any way you want. And basically the language of the instructions to voters, Alanna, gives us the ability and the flexibility to do whatever the heck we want. So
yeah, it gives you a little
you
bit
can
of
go any
liberty.
which way you want with this.
It should be a unicorn award, and that should go every year to Shohei Ohtani. All right, we're going to be back in a
A player
moment.
mentioned that to me yesterday, Alanna. Let me interrupt you. A player said to me yesterday, hey, have him get his own award every year, and then we can have an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it's just, he's a unicorn. Most outstanding player, most unique player, Shohei Ohtani. All right, we're going to be back in just one moment after a message from our Foul Territory friends, and then we'll do Dude and Dork next.
We're busy. You're busy. And figuring out food all the time is a hassle, especially when you're trying to eat right. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals.
Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-created meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor features fresh, never frozen meals, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals.
Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and salmon. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore.
Head to factormeals.com/FOUL50 and use code FOUL50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month. That's code FOUL50 at factormeals.com/FOUL50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
I love it. Just tried mine. I love Factor. Thank you so much. All right, Dude and Dork of the week. Kenny, who is your dude?
My dude is a guy that I wrote about today, Milwaukee Brewers rookie right-hander Tobias Myers. And I know a lot of fans around the country probably have not heard of him, but check out his stats this year. 6-5, 2.99 ERA, and 108 1/3 innings. He has been, frankly, the Brewers' version of Paul Skeens. Not as sexy with the stuff or anything like that, but he's been that guy for a team that has needed a lot of pitching help due to its injuries. This is a player who was traded twice, designated for assignment once, released once. This is a player who was a number 80 in spring training, a non-roster pitcher, a guy who Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, told me was not even in the organization's top 25 pitchers. And I actually checked, it's true. They had 32 pitchers in camp, and he was in the second group sent out, which was a group of 3, and at that point, they had 26 pitchers left. So it's amazing what he's accomplished. It's a story of perseverance, and for that, he is due to the week.
Oh, I love that story. Good for him. Mine is a dog, and his name is Shohei Decoy Ohtani. This is the coolest thing ever. Shohei Ohtani spent 3 weeks coaching and teaching and training Decoy how to throw a first pitch. So last night was the Shohei and Decoy Ohtani bobblehead night at Dodger Stadium, and he taught him how to wait at the mound. And his dad was the catcher, and then he threw out the first pitch. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life, as if I didn't love Shohei Ohtani enough. Now I love him even more. So Decoy Ohtani, my friend, you are my dude of the week. Kenny, who's your dork?
That's a great dude. My dork, it's an entire organization. It's the Chicago White Sox. They're on pace to finish 37 and 125. That would break the record of the 1962 New York Mets. And let's take a look at a tweet last night from Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News, who was there covering the game between the Rangers and the White Sox. Guaranteed rate field 20 minutes prior to resumption of a game with no outs recorded yet. How about that?
That's sad.
That place is empty, man. And here's Evan again. I literally just counted fans in the outfield seats. There are 49. I've never been able to do this before. This is just a bad look. Amen to what Evan is saying there. It's a horrible look. It's an organization that has fallen flat on its face in the 3 years since making the playoffs. They were in the playoffs in 2021 again. So there's a lot to be said here, and there's a lot that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, rough baseball in Chicago. I agree with you, man. The White Sox, what a mess. The A's and the White Sox, what an absolute mess. My dork of the week is in the AL West, and I love this guy, but Jerry DiPoto, it bums me out, Ken, that Scott Service found out that he was going to be let go based on a breaking news alert on social media a couple of hours before he was scheduled to meet with Jerry DiPoto. And again, this happens a lot. I find that players find out about trades via social media. Scott Service was the manager for 8 or 9 seasons. He didn't even find out when he was supposed to find out. It bums me out because, we're people before we're players. We're people, we're humans, right? And this is just upsetting to me. I understand that there needed to be a change, and I'm fine with that. I just don't like the way Scott Service found out.
Well, this is a tricky one for me, Alanna, because I was the one who initially reported it. And obviously, as I said on Foul Territory the other day, I was just doing my job and doing it to the best of my ability. But did I feel happy to hear that this happened? No. It was quite uncomfortable, quite unfortunate. And yes, I felt badly for Scott Service. And you're right. This should not happen. And granted, things do go awry sometimes with reporting as far as teams getting things out too late or whatever. And we can understand that. But it was not a good outcome. Let's just put it that way.
And to be clear, this has nothing to do with you. You're doing your job. That is what your job is. I mean, they should have had an opportunity to speak with Scott Service way before it went out on social media. So it's unfortunate. Scott's a good man. He's a good baseball man. He will find another job. That's going to do it for us. This has been fun. I miss talking to you. So this has been good. A lot to talk about. Great questions today on Grillin Ken. Do not forget, Foul Territory is coming up next, and the Dodgers Territory with myself and Clint Pasillas this afternoon. We'll talk about the upcoming series. Ken is back with a brand new Fair Territory on Monday. We look forward to that. Kenny, thank you so much. And also thanks to our friends at BetMGM. We're happy to have you with us. Before we go, let's shout out the BetMGM First Bet $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager, receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Again, thanks everybody for watching Ken and I today on Fair Territory. Like us, subscribe to us on YouTube. We appreciate you. Again, Foul Territory is next, and Ken is back on Monday. See you then.